All right, Larry Krueger back with another edition, the fifth edition of Niners Nightly. Tonight we come to you not from the home studio, but from Levi Stadium, where Monday night will be wrapping up Week 1. The Niners take on the New York Jets, and so we were talking, who do we want to have on this week to talk about the Jets? And I mentioned it in one of the live streams, and man, all of a sudden, Jody Mac, get Jody Mac. Jody Mac's the biggest Jets fan there is. And of course, you know that name, Jody Mac. You catch him on WIP in Philly, WFAN in New York, CBS Sports Radio nationally. You hear him on The Sports Leader, driving around listening to CBS Sports Radio, one of the best sports radio personalities in the country. And he's with us here on the UMA guest line to talk about the New York Jets, his New York Jets. Jody Mac, how are you?
Yes, my New York Jets, if you're going to talk about me, you need to preface it with long-suffering New York Jets fan. Oh, there's a lot of suffering Jet fans, but mine happens to be long, as in 50-plus years. And I do remember the 1969 Super Bowl when I was in just the second grade, but it's been a long time since then, and they're dying to get back to the Super Bowl and having to start against your Niners out there in your house, week number 1. Not exactly the way you want to start a trek to the Super Bowl, but not impossible either.
How do you think Rodgers is going to look Monday night? He's only played 4 snaps since 2022, Jody, and he played no preseason games. Obviously, he's had camp. What's the talk coming out of camp?
He's Rodgers, so he'll be fine. He'll be very good. Will he be brittle? Nobody knows, because
Right.
like you said, his teammates weren't touching him. Joint practices, even that is limited, and he didn't play a snap in preseason, which you knew was coming. So do I think Aaron Rodgers has the skill to be an MVP level type quarterback? Sure, I do. And he's got enough pieces around him. The Jets are talented enough, have enough talented offensive players. It's a legit question. Sorry, Aaron. Can you play all 17 games? We don't know.
Yeah.
It's a shot in the dark. Now, it's sometimes shots in the dark hit right in the middle of the arrow where you want to land, the bullseye. We'll see if that's the case with Aaron. It won't be because of age or his skill set starting to depart him. No, for me, the biggest question about Aaron Rodgers is, can he stay on the field for all the Jet games this year?
You know, when I looked at the number on this game, the spread, the total dropped. So it makes me think it's going to be a low scoring, physical, run the ball kind of a slugfest between these teams. Is that what the spread is telling you? I mean, what kind of game do you think? Because the Rodgers has weapons. Garrett Wilson's a stud. Breece Hall's amazing. The Niners have weapons. They average over 30 points a game. This could be a shootout, but that over under number is really low.
The reason that I think it is because both of these defenses are very good. The Jets is very good. The Jets defense is better than their offense. Don't know that you want to say it. Don't know you should say it about the 49ers because they're good on both sides of the ball. And the Jets offense is question mark because we don't know what the hell Rodgers is going to do. But the non-question mark is the Jets defense. And it was one of the best in football last year. They're down one significant potential contributor in Hassan Reddick, who they traded for and inexplicably haven't been able to redo his contract, and he hasn't shown up at camp, and they still talked about the possibility of it right up till today. He didn't show up again. He's not playing Monday against San Francisco. That's a shame on the Jets. You don't make a trade for that kind of player without knowing you're going to be able to get a deal done. There's a reason why the Eagles traded him. He's been one of the best defensive ends in the NFL for the last 2 years. Why would you trade a guy with time to go in his contract? Because he wanted to redo his deal, and the Eagles weren't into it. So they shipped him to the Jets, and the Jets are like, oh, we thought he'd show up. What do you mean you thought he'd show up? Of course he wants to redo his contract. So shame on Joe Douglas, the general manager of the Jets, on that one. But even without Reddick, the Jets are one of the best defenses in the National Football League. They can get after it. They can cover. They've got as good a duo at linebacker as there is in the National Football League. Yeah, the Jets are going to test the 49ers offense on Monday night.
Well, we're not going to see Reddick, as you said, but who is better between Bryce Huff and Reddick? I mean, these are guys that switch teams in your neck of the woods, and you're watching a lot of both of these guys. Who's the better DN there?
Well, Huff has been a better all-around player. Reddick's been a better all-around player because Huff has been completely one-trick pony. He comes in on passing downs and he goes forward. Now, from time to time, Reddick would get a little grief in Philadelphia because he wasn't as good a run stopper as he was a pass rusher. Well, he's one of the best pass rushers in the league. You think he's going to be better, one of the best run stoppers too? I thought that critique was unfair. So Reddick is a more proven player. We'll see what Bryce Huff becomes for the Eagles. They were at least ahead of the game. At least they got the guy that they wanted on the contract that they wanted him for. Jets right now don't have either of the two. So that's why the Jets are paying a price going into week one.
Now, you mentioned Joe Douglas. I've always thought he's a pretty good evaluator, but how much does Joe Douglas and the combo of Douglas and Robert Saleh, who obviously was here, how much of those guys on the hot seat? I know it's New York, and I know last year washed away after 4 plays, but where's Woody Johnson, in this mix as far as they're concerned? I know he's near 80. I know he's wanted to win a long time. He's owned the thing for about 25 years. They've never come close to winning. Are these guys on the hot seat?
Oh, I believe so. They should be. If they're not, they should be. And we know the owner from time to time gets involved with other ventures other than just running the New York Jets, which gets him critiqued and criticized in New York all the time. I hope he's paying enough attention that if the Jets don't make the playoffs again this year, he goes clean sweep and brings out the big broom and starts the whole process all over again. I think they are a playoff team. They should be a playoff team. They've got enough talent to be in the playoffs. If they're not, the seat should get exceedingly hot under both the general manager and head coach's chairs.
All right, a couple quick matchups in this thing. What do you think of the perimeter matchups? It's Ayuk, it's Debo, it's JJ, Jawan Jennings, and it's a trio that might be the best trio going. Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed, who's a former Niner, Michael Carter II. To me, this is a big matchup in this game, the perimeter. Who do you think got the edge?
Carter just got a extension the last 2 days,
Right.
so he's tied up to stay with the Jets for a good couple of years going. You're right, that's a key matchup. Jets have as good a secondary as anyone in National Football. Numero uno, best secondary in football as far as I'm concerned, but the Niners come at you different ways. What is Brandon Ayuk going to be? I would speculate he'd be fine, but you don't know until he gets out there, and you got to look at him under game conditions. We know Debo will be fine. Amazing that you don't have your rookie pass catcher Pearsall, who he gets shot and he's
shot in downtown San Francisco,
right? And then he's at the workout facility the next day lifting weights. There's a tough guy. There's the kind of guy I want on my team. If that's the case, damn, that's impressive.
Yeah, no, seriously, man, scary thing. And but yeah, he the bullet somehow traveled in his chest, out his back, missed the spine, missed the lungs, missed the heart. He's a very, very lucky guy. John Lynch was at the hospital. The doctors there told him, Jody, that type of a gunshot wound, the survival rate's like 2 out of every 100.
No,
so
kidding. Holy
the kid is definitely, somebody's above looking down on him, and it's not his time. But another matchup in this thing I think is going to be really fun is the Jets defensive ends. I love Jermaine Johnson, and Will McDonald is coming of age. And Purdy was talking about him today. They were teammates at Iowa State. There's Michael Clemens. There's Tack McKinley. Heck, even that kid McGregor out of Michigan, I thought looked good in the preseason. McKinley's a local guy. He went to Kennedy High School here in Richmond. What do you think? I mean, how good are these defensive ends? Who's the best of the group in your mind?
The Jets, if they're going to be successful against San Francisco because they have so many weapons, can't blitz much, but they can't not blitz either. It has to be the perfect time. It's the guessing game between coordinator and coordinator. When you think the other team is not looking for it, then you bring the extra guy. I think if the Jets try and get there with 4, Purdy will have enough time to do damage. I like the Jets pass rush. I don't love the Jets pass rush with Hassan Reddick. You may see either Williams or Mosley coming from the linebacker position a little bit more often than the Jets usually do. I would not be surprised if they tried to bring a backer or two. And if that's the case, then you're going to get George Kittle against some smaller DBs, which could be big payoffs for the 49ers. Now, I love the Jet DBs, and they're great at coverage, but Kittle can be a really difficult guy to cover. And if it's a one-on-one between he and a small safety or a guy who's he's given up 5 or 6 inches to on that short, quick hit, Kittle may be able to make a long play out of it.
What is there a wild card factor in this game Monday night for the Jets? I mean, I watched the entire preseason because I've got that, NFL Plus. You can watch the condensed version. It only took me like 28 minutes to watch each game. But I didn't see a lot of starters. I saw none of Rodgers. Is there some wild card factor we should look for from the Jets side?
Here's what I'll give you, which 49er fans probably will discard and disregard. There aren't going to be too many games that the 49ers come into this year where the running back position might not be a major overlay. When you've got Christian McCaffrey, who's the best back in the National Football League, you think you're going to dominate the running game. Beware Breece Hall. He's that good. He could go mano a mano and get 5 and change yards per carry the same way Christian McCaffrey can. And he's also got a nose for the end zone. You're asking a lot of a guy to compare to the best running back in the league. That's how I rate McCaffrey. I think Hall is one of the best running backs of the league. And if he can play McCaffrey-like, the Jets can go in and steal one out there in the Bay Area.
Wow. Okay, last one. I want to get quick thought on the Eagles because they're playing as we speak, and I gotta apologize for even inviting you on while the Eagle game's going on. I mean, you're doing yeoman's work to do double duty here, but you're on in Philly, you're on in New York, you're synonymous really with both franchises. Nine fans care a lot about the Jets this week, but they're keeping a real close look at Howie Roseman's Eagles. What kind of summer has it been in Philly?
Flipping over, I see that the Eagles have taken the lead 7-6. The Packers dominated the first period. 2 Eagle turnovers in their own territory. A forced pass by Jalen Hurts and a fumble by Jalen Hurts. He wasn't ready for an out of the gun snap that just went off his shoulder and was recovered by a 49er defender. They did hold the 49ers 2 field goals. So that made it 6-0, and the 49ers, I'm guessing time of
Green Bay.
First quarter. I keep saying 49ers because I'm talking to you.
I'm sitting here. You got 49ers on the brain.
Sorry, but the Packers had a chance to jump out 14-0. Were stopped in the red zone 2 straight times, and I guess the Eagles have responded and driven it down the field. So 7-6 looks a lot like last night's game. Could be a lot of offense going up and down the field by both teams.
What do you think of them this summer, though? I mean, I looked at some of the players that Howie brought in. I mean, Jahan Dotson just came over from Washington. They brought over Mekhi Becton, who's playing right guard. I mean, to me, I know Mekhi Becton was not a good player for the Jets, but I mean, you're talking about one of the biggest offensive linemen in the history of the NFL, and you got Lane Johnson on that side as well. To me, that seems like that could be a really good tandem. You got Saquon, you got Huff, you got C.J. Gardner-Johnson back. They drafted Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell. We mentioned Devin White's problems, but what do you think of the Eagle offseason? Kind of, they looked really bad at the end of last year. Their pass defense was so bad. How's it look this summer?
Well, I agreed with the powers that be for the Philadelphia Eagles, who are Howie Roseman and Jeff Lurie, owner and general manager. They did the 2 things they had to do. They got 2 new coordinators. When the Eagles went to the Super Bowl, they lost both of their coordinators. That's what happens when you have a great year. People reach out. D'Amico Ryan says the reason why he's in Houston, not in San Francisco anymore. Yep. That's what happens when you have success. People take your coaches and they give them head coaching positions. So they took 2 swings and misses last year. Neither of their coordinators were up to snuff. That was a big reason for the collapse. There were some players that massively underachieved, but it wasn't a well-coached team, which almost got Sirianni fired. And I agreed that 3 straight years in the playoffs, as ugly as the collapse was, he deserved one more chance. That's what they decided to do. They brought in 2 significantly upgraded coordinators in Kellen Moore and Fangio on the defensive side. I actually think the defensive side will be more improved. The offense does need to improve. They just had to get out of a little funk they were in at the end of last year. Defense could be decent this year because last year it was brutal under Sean Desai and Matt Patricia. Awful.
Were the fans with you, Jody, or were they in the, I mean, obviously you can't say all, they're always going to be split. Sure. But I mean, did the Philly fans want Sirianni out, I mean,
More,
this guy was in the Super Bowl 2 years ago.
more than 50%, I would say.
Wow.
Philly fans
Wow.
were ready to move on because that collapse was as ugly as it was, and they put it most on his plate. And he deserved scrutiny. And Larry, I said this on WIP on my national show. They took the play calling from Sean Desai when the team was 10-2. Now the defense wasn't great, but it was good enough to get him to 10-2, and they demoted him and they turned it over to Matt Patricia, who I know has the history with Belichick, but you don't know how much was his play calling. We know what he was as the head coach in Detroit, failure. You don't fire a guy, you don't take his job away when you're 10-2. The Eagles did, and Sirianni continues to insist it was his idea, that he went to management and said, I need to swap out my DCs. I need to give Matt Patricia the coordinator position. I thought it was foolish then. I still don't believe it was 100% Sirianni. I think he was taking bullets for the organization, and that's why I think that was a big reason why he was able to keep his job and continue coaching the Birds.
Is Sirianni's seat hotter than Salah's? I mean, you're in both, and I'm really talking more from the media sense of the thing, because you're right there in the eye of the storm in both markets. Nobody could speak to this better than you, Jody. I mean, you're talking to fans in New York on the Fan. You're talking to fans down in Philly on IP. You got a great sense for both fan bases. Which fan base is more? Because I really like Robert Saleh. He's less of a lightning rod. He's also accomplished a lot less. Sirianni's accomplished more, but he's so smug. He's so easy to dislike, it seems like. I don't know, maybe Philly fans love him, but it seems like out here people can't stand him.
Some do, some don't, and Sirianni's okay with it if you don't like him because he does it his way, and it's been successful enough for him. I would have to say, I think it's very close, very comparable. If you're asking me my opinion,
right,
Saleh should be on the hotter seat. I think it's more pressing for him that the Jets have success and make the playoffs this year. Now, if the Eagles don't even make the playoffs, the Eagles are working from a position of we start with the playoffs, at least the wild card spot. If they don't make that, this team's 9-8 and end up missing the wild card because of a tiebreaker. Yeah, Sirianni could pay for it with his job.
I went with the Niners and the Texans as my Super Bowl pick. I just think that Deshaun Watson trade, the more I look at it, the more I'm thinking, wow, that gives the Texans such a leg up. And then they added Danielle Hunter and Diggs, and oh, wow. I'm a big fan of D'Amico, and that offensive coach is a pretty good coach. He was here. I kind of like, I'm going Niners Houston. That's my pick. What did you make a pick?
Yes. Oh, yes. The game that we're leading into and will be played on Monday night will be done again in New Orleans come February. Before it ever started back in June, I made my annual wager of picking the two Super Bowl teams, and I bet the Jets against the 49ers. So that is my matchup for this year.
Jets Niners.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. What would it?
And I've taken Eagles 2 straight years. This is the first time I've gotten on the Niner bandwagon. I took the Eagles 2 years ago when they went to the Super Bowl. I took them last year again. That didn't work out so well. First time I've moved to the 49ers, and I got them going against Aaron Rodgers.
I like it. And I like the fact that you're going with the Jets too, because that shows heart, and I love that. Last one before we let you go. The fan base, like out there. I mean, the Yankee fans, they always say, oh, they're very corporate. The Mets fans are louder, brash, more obnoxious. Is it pretty much Yankees, Giants, Jets, Mets, and or do you have, are there Yankee Jets fans out there? I mean,
there are some, but it breaks down along traditional lines more than anything. Jets and Mets, for those who are old enough to remember, and I happen to be one of them, played in the same stadium at one point. The Yankees and the Giants, and I attended a football game at Yankee Stadium. You talk about being young.
wow.
I think I was in the first grade. Cowboys against the Giants, and Bob Hayes caught a touchdown pass.
Bullet Bob Hayes.
Yes. So I've seen games in too many stadiums in New York over the years. But the Giants and the Yankees have always been kind of tied together, and the Mets and the Jets have been semi-tied together. But there's crossovers to all the different teams and all the different fans. But if you're looking for the most traditional, it's Yanks, Giants, Jets, Mets.
And who's got the bigger fan base? Like, the Niners and Raiders were here together, but the Niners had the bigger fan base. The Raiders then became a global brand, LA and so on and so forth. But the Niner fan base, I think, is bigger locally than the Raider fan base was here. Is the Giant fan base bigger, or is the Jet fan base bigger?
It's the discrepancy has shrunk over the years. For a long time, it's been the Giants as the bigger fan base. They were around first in the NFL before the AFC came around. So they had a head start with the Jets over the Jets in just fan bases. Over the years, I would say the Jets have closed the gap. On the baseball side, the Met fans are more passionate, probably because they, like the Jet fan, have gone through more suffering. But I think the Yankee fan base is bigger. So the two that originally came from the Bronx, I would say, are the two bigger fan bases.
Jody, awesome stuff, man. I enjoyed watching the Giants on the Hard Knocks. I don't know about Dable.
I thought it was great, and people badmouthed it and said Joe Shane came off like an idiot. I don't agree a little bit. I thought it was tremendously produced. I thought it was entertaining for a football fan standpoint. I don't know why anybody would complain about it.
It's funny. Shanahan and Lynch will never do Hard Knocks. They just can't stand it. They look at it as an intrusion. They feel like they'll give away too many trade secrets. They want no part of it here. It's like the last thing you'll ever see is the 49ers in Hard Knocks. And I think that if you win, I don't think you have to be on. I think you listen to John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan talk about Hard Knocks, you would swear that they want to win just so they don't have to be on Hard Knocks.
Yeah, but
I love that
ever expanding Hard Knocks that is, they now have preseason, which has been great, off season, which I thought was cool with the Giants. In season, I've never gotten into it. I've watched it both the 2 years they've done it, haven't, and not as good as the other two. But at some point, they're going to suck the 49ers in. The word's going to come down. No, the 49ers have to be involved too. Tell them they must participate.
Everybody must listen to Jody Mac. He's on WIP. He's on WFAN. He's on CBS Sports Radio. He's a great follow on X at Jody Mac, man. Jody, good to see you, man. Awesome to hear you. Great to see you. Enjoy the rest of the football game. Thanks for jumping on the Niners Nightly on KMBR's YouTube channel. We really appreciate you, brother.
Krug, anytime you need me, I'm here for you, brother. Always enjoy doing it. Enjoy the game on Monday night. I think it's a toss-up. I think either team could win. We'll see who wins on Monday night.
Sounds good. Anytime you're looking for a guest talking Niners on CBS Sports Radio, give me a call, Jody. I would love to pop on with you.
Done, brother.
All right, Jody Mac, the great Jody Mac in the house. He is phenomenal. And if you're in Philly, catch him on IP. And if you're in New York, catch him on the Fan. And if you're driving around the country, especially on the weekends, catch Jody on CBS Sports Radio. And he is outstanding. And he's outstanding because he's informed. He's got an opinion, and he's not afraid to share it. So it's so funny, though. We were talking before the show, and he kept talking about Green Bay like they were the Niners. And then I go, Jody, you mean Green Bay? And he's like, yeah. So he was confusing the Green Bay playing the Eagles tonight with the Niners, but the great Jody Mac in the house. And once again, Jody Mac Man, JODY MACMAN, Jody Mac Man on X. And Jody is a phenomenal follow-up. All right, let's take a timeout. We're going to come back. The next segment, what we're going to do is, somebody sent me a question that I really had some fun with. Last night, I was jotting down some notes on this one. Somebody asked me a question on one of the social media things I'm on, saying, what is like the biggest questions either left answer that have been answered or are unanswered, but what are some of the biggest questions that I have around the 49ers in Niner history? So I thought about it. I'm like, wow, questions in Niner history. I mean, there are so many, but I came up with 6. Now I was born in 1970, so I'm not going to go back to the early 70s. Why did the 49ers, lose an onside kick to the Cowboys in the early 70s? I can't go there because it's before my time. But but I can go to 6 of the biggest either answered or unanswered questions in 49er history. And I'm going to hit that coming up next. Josh asks me here, he says, "Are you in studio today, Larry?" I'm here in the, I'm at Levi's. I'm in the Tasman studio, the KMBR Tasman studio. And the reason I'm here is because the Niners schedule was such that, that I believe we didn't even talk to Purdy until late in the afternoon, like 4 o'clock. And I can't get from Santa Clara to Walnut Creek between, for sure between, in 2 hours. I might have made it. I might not have made it. I didn't want to call it, make it close. So, and I didn't want to miss the presser. So, we got not brand new. It's as old as the stadium, but we got a beautiful studio here on Tasman, KMBR Studios here inside Levi's. So I said, why not take advantage of them? So we appreciate it. And so what we'll do here is we're going to take like a 2-minute break, and then we're just going to come back and I'm going to go through the 6 what I view as the 6 biggest questions, 6 biggest questions that I can think of in 49er history. And some of them have been answered. Some of them remain unanswered, but we'll be back in a minute. I'll put this little thing on the screen so you guys can see it there. There we go. It's just back in a few minutes. Stay tuned. Leave some more comments. So we'll take a quick time out. We'll come back in a couple on Niners Nightly. Hope you're enjoying it. This is the 5th edition as we wrap up week number 1. We wanted to have some good guests. We've had 3 shows this week on YouTube. So we don't want to waste all of our guests on YouTube, but we've had some really, really good segments this week. And I really appreciate Mike Kohler and Larry Bloomhagen and all the good people at KMBR giving me a shot to do Niners Nightly for you on KMBR. And then, of course, during Giants Baseball on KMBR's YouTube page. So we'll be back in a minute with more of Niners Nightly on the Sports Leader. All right, welcome back to Niners Nightly on KMBR's YouTube channel, and this segment we're going to talk a little bit. I got somebody sent me a question on. My son handed it to me. I think it was on on Instagram. But somebody sent me a question. What are some of the biggest questions in 49ers history? And, it's one of those things where you're sitting there and you're going, biggest questions in 49er history. And there's a lot that come to mind that, when you start thinking about it, you're like, lots of different ideas come to mind with Niner history as far as, questions that people have asked. Okay, so the first one I would say, if you said biggest question in Niner history, it has to be Joe or Steve, right? Joe Montana or Steve Young, the debate that just from the late 80s and early 90s. So if there's one question that stands above all else in Niner land, I would say Joe or Steve. That's just like synonymous with the entire debate from that raged on there in the late 80s and really more in the early 90s as Steve Young started to win MVPs and Joe Montana had the back injury. So that's the biggest question I would say in 49er history. I'll give you one that I've definitely would have asked this question many times. Who was it that traded Charles Haley to the Dallas Cowboys and why? Why would you trade Charles Haley to the Dallas Cowboys? You could make an argument that the Dallas Cowboys dynasty wouldn't have even happened unless the Niners gave them the final piece to the puzzle, the great Charles Haley. So I think it was Carmen who made the trade, but I'm not sure if it was Carmen who was behind the trade initially. It might have been George Seifert. But wow, you kind of think about that move right there. If the Niners hadn't traded Charles Haley to the Cowboys, the Niners may have 7 Super Bowls right now, and the Cowboys may have a few less. I mean, he was absolutely the force that led them to their championship. Here's another question that I have. If Roger Craig doesn't fumble in the NFC title game and the Niners go on to beat the Giants, would Steve Young have been able to beat the Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl? Steve Young, a very young Steve Young at that point, who, he wasn't the player that he would emerge as. I mean, I love Steve and I would love to say yes, but I got to think that maybe that Buffalo team might have had the Niners number. The Niners and the Bills played that year, and I believe neither team punted. So it would have been an incredibly entertaining Super Bowl. Instead, the New York Giants pulled the upset over the Buffalo Bills. I think that in Tampa, I think it was Tampa, Florida. And then, of course, Joe Montana got knocked out by Leonard Marshall in the NFC Championship game. So it would have been Steve Young starting in that Super Bowl. Would Steve Young, with barely any experience, have been able to beat the Buffalo Bills in the 1990 Super Bowl the way the New York Giants did? I don't know. But that is, to me, an interesting question. Here's another interesting question. Interesting question number 4. Did Jim Harbaugh gag in his Super Bowl moment? Now, Harbaugh is the kind of guy that would probably come after me and try to punch me in the face for even suggesting it. But they did have 1st and goal at the 7 with about 2 minutes and 20 seconds on the clock in Super Bowl 47. You had Frank Gore. You never handed him the ball. You had maybe the greatest running quarterback of his era in Colin Kaepernick, who was a phenomenal runner. They didn't attempt a run with Kaepernick. Instead, Harbaugh called a timeout coming out of the 2-minute warning because they couldn't get a play called, and then had Kaepernick throw a 4th down touch fade pass to the pylon, despite the fact that, that was probably the weakness in Colin's game was his touch. I think Harbaugh absolutely gagged at the end of the Niner Ravens Super Bowl. So I would say yes to that. Question number 5. Now we'll get to, the more recent vintage Niners with the Shanahan era. I think my question in Super Bowl 54 is, how does Deebo Samuel not touch the ball more in the second half in Super Bowl 54? He was the betting MVP at halftime of that game. And yet he didn't touch the ball. I think he touched the ball like twice in the second half. That was the question that I had coming out of that game. And then this last one, I guess, from last year, how do you leave Chris Jones unblocked on a key 3rd and 4 in Super Bowl 58? I mean, Super Bowl 58. So I don't know. That to me, watching that and watching Inside the NFL, some of the reviewing, the Super Bowl, watching the Chiefs talk about how Chris Jones went unblocked. I mean, it's just it's enough to give you a migraine. Seriously, it's enough to sit there and make you go, oh my God, how did they leave Chris Jones unblocked? But that would be it. Those would be my 6 right there. Those to me are the biggest questions in Niner history. Joe or Steve, who traded Haley and why? If Roger Craig doesn't fumble and it's Niners Bills in that Super Bowl in 90, does Steve Young get it done? Did Harbaugh gag with the play calls at the end of Niners Ravens? Or do you blame the players? And then, how do you not get Debo the ball in the second half of Super Bowl 54? And how do you not block Chris Jones on 3rd and 4 with the season on the line in Super Bowl 58? Those to me would be mine. I'd love to see yours. If you have a question that you think, is you consider one of the great questions in Niner history, but those would be mine. Those would be the ones I would go with. Um, we've got this guy in the chat who's saying, if you write your own history, Larry, Larry should just write the Bible, his own version. Oh, there you go. Very good. Very good. All right. Sounds good. 49er Red Zone says, give the ball to Frank Gore. Yeah. I saw Frank Gore the next morning. He was just distraught that he had lost the Super Bowl. I mean, it was, distraught. Very sad. And it's like so it's like the Niners got down to 1st and goal from the 7. LaMichael James got a carry. Frank Gore did not. Michael Crabtree, had multiple balls thrown his way. Vernon Davis did not. Randy Moss, one of the greatest receivers of all time, no balls thrown his way. As you can tell, I'm over it. But to me, that would be the biggest question of the biggest questions of Niner history. Those 6, and of course, every year we get some new ones, but those would be the biggest. All right, we'll take one more time out. We're going to come back in a couple minutes, and we're going to play some audio. We're going to do some of the audio from the day. We'll let you hear my conversation with Chris Conley. Caught up with him. And we'll talk a little bit about some of the news of the day and a couple thoughts on the matchup on Monday night. Niners Jets for to get it going week 1. I'm really excited to see it. I think it's going to be a absolute bloodbath. I think it's going to be physical, really physical. I think the Jets are one of the NFL's more physical teams, and the Niners, we'll see. Every year it's a different edition of the group. But the Niners over the last 4 or 5 years have been a very physical football team. Now there's no Dre Greenlaw, and he was a big part of that physicality. But I'm eager to see Monday night because I think it's going to be knockdown, drag out, low scoring, but hard hitting. That's what I'm expecting. A low scoring, hard hitting contest between the Niners and the Jets. I like the Niners to win. I may take the Niners on the money line. Haven't decided how I want to wager on the thing. I may tease the Jets up to like 11.5 and tease the total up to 51 or something like that and go under. Something like that. That's kind of what I'm thinking. We'll be back next with another segment as we continue on Niners Nightly on the KMBR YouTube channel on The Sports Leader.
All right, we're
There we go. There we go. I muted myself. I forgot to unmute, but thanks for reminding me in the chat. But we're down here at Levi's getting ready, of course, for the Monday night affair, the Niners and the Jets. And we're here in the KMBR studio on Tasman Street with our Niners Nightly, the 5th edition, the Friday edition. And we caught up today with Chris Conley inside the locker room. We're going to let you hear a little bit of that conversation right here. Conley's a great, I think a really good interview. And the guy's a really intelligent guy. Guy's been in the league a long time. Very interesting. Here's Chris Conley. We add him to the mix
with
here.
the Niners wide receiver Chris Conley and the national TV last game of the week. We got a Thursday game. We got a game tonight. We get games on Sunday. Is it tough to wait for that Monday night game at the beginning of the year?
Yes and no. Yes and no. I think that there's a lot of anticipation. Guys in here have been working hard and they're ready to go and put that work to good use. But at the same time, you can't peak too soon. Got to be patient. There's still more preparation to do. So yes and no.
You're a veteran, so you understand film study and watching your opponent. I'm sure you've studied the Jets. It's a great trio of corners: Sauce, DJ, the other guy Carter II. Really good players. Maybe the best trio you'll face all year. What do they look like on film? I guess, for those of us who haven't watched the film, when you watch it, what makes them special compared to some of the other groups of corners you'll see?
Well, with Sauce, size. He's got size. He's got length. He runs well and got good feet. Really, all of them got good feet. All of them have good feet. They have good anticipation for what you're going to do. You have to be very solid. You can't give things away. If you tip something off, they're going to drive. They're going to drive and they're going to break on that ball. So discipline, route depth, no indicators. And then you got to run through the ball because they will play through the ball with their hands.
It's a physical defense. I would imagine this is going to be a very physical game. You guys are a physical football team, but I think this Jets team, I think, is one of the more physical teams in the league. What do you think? When you look at them, are they a more physical team than some of the other teams in the league?
Oh, I definitely think that they are physical. They have defensive roots that are very similar to what we do here. And it's all predicated off running and hitting, setting a tone, and really limiting what an offense can do. And so I think that they are physical. I think that Monday is going to be a physical game. You have to go in there and you have to set the tone, and you got to be able to respond when you get punched in the mouth.
Now, Brandon held out, and now he's back. And I would imagine those first couple days practicing, man, what's the first couple days of camp like? Because, I mean, you stay in shape year-round, but day one of camp, day two of camp, that's kind of where he's at right now. What's that feeling like for you?
It's a lot. It's a lot of things going on. It's a whirlwind of information. It's wrinkles that have gone in and things like that. But he's doing an exceptional job staying on top of those things, and he's working hard. And I think he looks good. I think he looks really good. I think he's ready to go.
Purdy, you're only a couple of lockers down from Purdy. He's entering his third year, and to me, he looked really good this summer. How's he progressed in your mind? Since you've been here for the last couple of years, what do you think of how he's progressed this summer?
I love it. I think that Brock has been the same person that he's been since I met him, coming into this building, humble, hard worker, focused. Those things are all still the same, but I think that there's a new level of comfort that's arising in him, comfortable not only around his teammates and interacting with his teammates, but taking charge, being a leader, commanding the huddle, raising his voice when necessary. And those are the things that you look for around this time. You have to take ownership. That's what the quarterback position is, and I think that he's doing that more and more.
Have you had conversations? You got two young guys in your room that look up to you, I'm sure, in Cowing and Pearsall. Have you had a chance to have some one-on-one dialogue with them and, just talk to them? I guess what the question I would have is, what's the difference between going from the college game to the pro game, and what could you advise them?
Just letting them know that there's limited opportunities out there. On every NFL team, there's limited opportunities. It's just less than in college, but even more so on a team like this, when you have a guy like Deebo Samuel, when you got a guy like Brandon Ayuk, you got a guy like Jawan ahead of you, the opportunities are even fewer. And so you have to take advantage of those opportunities. And at the same time, you got to get mental reps, because you might not get a single rep at some of these plays all week long. And when it comes to the game, they're going to call on you to go out there and make a play in a crunch time situation. So just getting them ready that the expectation is higher, even if it doesn't necessarily look like it on the practice field, it's still expected.
That's interesting, actually. Just to follow up on that, the mental reps. Are you talking about like when you're watching film at night? Are you talking about like when your other guys are running through the drills and you're standing there? Where do you do those mental reps?
So, throughout practice. Throughout practice, there's a pecking order. And so if they have a play in for, BA or Debo, they're going to get the reps during the week, but you never know what's going to happen on Sunday. His shoelace might break. He might need to come out of the game for 3 plays, and you're in there.
Yeah.
Never got to rep the play. You never had a throw on that route from Brock. And you have to know all the coaching points and the details that guy went through during the week, because you have to execute it just as well as he will.
That's interesting. Hey, man, we'll let you go, but Bay Area, you spent some time here in the Bay the last couple of years. Is there a spot you've been in the Bay in the last year or so since you've been here that you're like, man, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, no, I took my kids to the Monterey Bay Aquarium.
Nice.
And they love it out there.
That's a cool aquarium.
It just was an awesome opportunity to take them around, let them go see all the animals, and lots of wows and lots of octopus and things like that. So yeah, no, it's been really nice for me and my family out here. We really love it and we enjoy it. My wife is from Napa, so we've spent some time out here before. But
nice.
Being out here longer has been great for us.
Hey, good luck this year. Have a great year.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Chris Conley stopping by on the Crude Show.
All right, Chris Conley, Niners Nightly, and good guy, and a great talker. It's going to be a guy who really, you talk to the veterans, have watched so much football, and they're as far as they know what the scheme is, they know, kind of, what all the routine, and it's just, you see the young guys in the room are 23, 24. And a lot of times they're really looking up to these veteran players. And so Chris Conley is a really, kind of an underrated player. This guy came out of Georgia. He was a freaky athlete, and he didn't quite work out. He's kind of bumped, went from team to team. He's been on a bunch of teams for a guy who's that kind of size, that kind of speed. But man, what a great find he was for the 49ers last year. He made an incredible tackle in the Super Bowl on the coverage unit, and just looked really, really good. So I liked what I saw last year from Chris Conley, and I think it was pretty obvious this year that he really deserved that spot on the roster. He really deserved an opportunity to make this team, and he did. So good for him. And I expect him to be a significant contributor on special teams. And if they need him from scrimmage, he can step in. If a Ayuk goes down, this guy can play that X receiver, and contribute from scrimmage. So it's like, you don't want to lean on him, but if you had to, you could. I'm going to share the screen, a couple of sound bites that I want to share with you. One is from Chris Forster. This is Forster earlier today. We'll listen to this and we'll talk about it next. We get a chance to see Brendel and Kinlaw potentially lock horns, and Kinlaw supposedly put on 30 pounds. What kind of a challenge is that going to be for Jake to anchor against a guy like that?
Great challenge. We get challenges every week, and Javon's another great guy, great player. Loved our time with him here. We really respect him and the job that he does. It's going to be a great challenge for whoever has to block the guy. he can be as dominant a defensive lineman as we see. And from what we've heard, he's having a great camp and is ready to go. So obviously we got a great challenge ahead of us.
Yeah, to me, that is one of the big questions in this particular game is can Jake Brendel block Javon Kinlaw? Now Brendel's gone against Kinlaw in practice. Kinlaw's put on 30 pounds since last year. Now he was lean and mean last year. So, but I mean, he still probably weighed about 315 pounds, 320, something like that. At least that's what he told me when I interviewed him. So now he's probably closer to 340, 350. And he's going to be fired up to play in this game. He's just going to come full bore at Brendel with his power. He doesn't have lots of pass rush moves, but he's got tremendous power. And it's going to be a very difficult thing for the Niners to run in the A gaps on Monday night with Kinlaw sitting right in the middle. So that could be a major factor in this game. I mean, you got Quinnen Williams, and then you've got Kinlaw, and Quinnen's an incredible player in his own right. In fact, we'll share the screen on this one as well, and you guys can listen to. I asked Forrester a little bit about Quinnen. Because Quinnen Williams is one of the dominant players in the sport right now. I mean, he's just a total monster player. A lot of people remember the Niners took Bosa second overall. There was a lot of talk that they were going to take Quinnen or should have taken Quinnen. I asked Forrester today a little bit about the dominating Jets defensive tackle.
Quinnen Williams, speaking of great players, is there's a lot of big, strong guys, but he's obviously great. What makes him so great?
He's got a low center of gravity. He's got bigger. Our guys were laughing the other day. He's listed at 303 pounds. I don't think he's at 303 anymore. It might have been his combine weight, but he is a load, and he plays with a great center of gravity. He plays with great energy. He's got explosion in his body. So he's one of those guys. We listed a bunch of guys the other day as to where he would rank with, and I'm not going to give you the ranking between, the great defensive tackles that we face. We face a lot of them. And he's just one of those real strong and explosive guys that you don't get on quick. If you don't take care of your business, you're not recovering. He's too strong and too powerful a guy, and it makes it hard to recover. So you got to be on your business early to take care of him if you have a chance to take care of him.
Quinnen Williams.
It's funny that, we were joking about how he's 300 pounds. It's like, no, he's not 300 pounds. He's like 300. He might have been 300 pounds like 5 years ago. He's probably 315, 320, 330. Quinnen Williams is a big boy, but you heard it there from Forrester. It's like you get beat by this guy, you don't get another opportunity. You can't recover. I mean, he's that quick. So he's a dominant force inside. And to me, this is where this game starts. Can Banks and Brendel and the rookie Dominic Pooney stand up to Kinlaw and Quinnen Williams right in the middle of the defense? And if they can, advantage 49ers. But if they can't, this game's going to be a very difficult game if you have to run to the edges and you cannot run between the tackles. So that's something to watch. I'm also going to let you see this question that I asked Brock Purdy earlier today. And, the one thing about Brock, you can always tell he's watched a lot of film. He's never like gives you the cliche answer. He just never does. He always gives you kind of a answer that kind of shows that, that he's done work, that he's watched the film. Here he is. I asked him about the corners for the Jets.
Brock, this team has three really good corners. What do they look like on film when you watch them?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I just feel like they have like a lot of experience and they have a good natural feel for the game and sort of understanding like concepts that offenses are running, and they're smart. And obviously, they're very athletic. Sauce Gardner's got some great length. DJ Reed's really quick, smart, gritty, and so for us, it's gonna be a great challenge. And anytime we're gonna push the ball outside the numbers or anything like that, it's just got to be smart and aware of those guys because they're really, really good corners. So,
yeah, the perimeter matchup in this game is going to be a huge one. I mean, you've got Ayuk and Debo and Jawan Jennings, and you've got maybe one of the best trio of corners going right now. DJ Reed's super underrated. Sauce Gardner is a stud. I mean, he's probably as good as any corner in the game right now. He's really a top tier guy. And Michael Carter II just signed a brand new deal. So they've got 3 good corners, and the Niners have 3 good receivers. And I think that matchup is really going to be something to watch on Monday night. How do the Niners, stand? How do the Niners receivers match up to Reed and Gardner and Carter II? And to me, that could be a big part of this game. Now, as we're sitting here, we've been talking Niners all week long on KMBR at from 6 to 7, and we're in our final 5 minutes of our final show of the week, and it has just come across here on X. This is a report that I'm reading live. Jets edge rusher Hassan Reddick is rumored to be reporting to his new team ahead of the game with the 49ers, according to Michael Lombardi, who went on his show on VSiN Live and is reporting that. So there you go. Hassan Reddick, according to Michael Lombardi, is going to be there on Monday night. Now that's going to be interesting. A lot of edge rushers don't need a lot of practice time. A lot of these guys can just step right off the street and right into the fire. And a guy like Reddick, who's a speed rusher, we'll see what he can do. But that is going to be interesting to watch for sure. On the Niner note, I don't think we're going to see Yatir Gross-Matos or D. Winters. They were both working on a side field today. I think it's a very high likelihood that neither goes. Christian McCaffrey said he is going to go in this game, so that will be something to watch. What does McCaffrey look like? I asked McCaffrey today about Jordan Mason, and he said, man, Mason's had a great summer, and there's no question. And even if McCaffrey can go, I'd like to see a lot more Mason this year. I'd like to see Shanahan use Mason more. As far as guys that were limited today at practice, and if you're limited on Friday, sometimes it means you're not going to go, but Aaron Banks is going to go. He's got the finger injury. He was limited. Garendo with the groin was limited. Hafanga with the knee, Jawan Jennings with the ankle, and CMC with the calf/Achilles. Those were the guys that were limited today. But the big talk is Williams is going to go, Ayuk's going to go, CMC is going to go. And as far as to on how much, the one thing, Firster was asked a couple times today, will you use Jalen Moore as a substitute to spell Trent Williams potentially throughout the game? And he's like, he basically wasn't going to give away anything. He was non-committal to it. But it sounds like it's something that very well could happen. You may see Jalen Moore for a series or two coming up. And then Nick Sorensen, we talked to him today, and the Niners, the one thing about the Niners that's super exciting on defense is the secondary, because they got so much talent back there. And Sorensen indicated that Mooney Ward, Demo Lenore, they're going to be your starting outside corners in the base. And Ward and Yadam are probably going to start outside in the nickel, and Demo in the nickel will be in the slot. So that's the corner alignment that we expect to see going into this game on Monday night. All right, that is going to do it for us for this hour. We're back with you tomorrow morning from right here at Levi's at 10 a.m. on the radio. So tomorrow morning from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock on KMBR 680, we'll talk a little bit about the matchup tomorrow between the Niners and the Jets. And, some of the things I want to get into tomorrow, Jordan Elliott, we're going to try to visit with Jordan Elliott from NBC Sports Bay Area. He does a nice job. Not the Jordan Elliott defensive lineman, but Jordan Elliott, the writer. So we're going to have him stop by hopefully tomorrow and get his thoughts on it. But to me, there's a couple big questions. Can the Niners defensive front stop the run? Against Breece Hall, can they stop the run? Can they stop the screen passes? Aaron Rodgers hasn't played an NFL game since 2022, and he's 40. He didn't play a minute in the preseason. To me, I don't know what to expect from Rodgers in this game. It's hard to really know. I think that's one of the things that's going to be a major part of it. What does Rodgers look like? Can the Niners put some rush on him? And the other question is, can the Niners flip the switch? The 49ers starting offense has had 1 week and no preseason games to prepare for this game. And Shanahan said football's about 11 guys working together. Offensive football is a lot about cohesion and timing. What do the Niners look like? on on offense. Can they flip the switch despite no practice and still perform? Is Christian McCaffrey ready to go? If not, is Jordan Mason ready to go? I think that's going to be something to watch. And then Robert Saleh, is he going to blitz Brock Purdy? Brock Purdy's got great numbers against the blitz, but you heard Jody Mac say he thinks you got to blitz him a little bit. So sounds like Reddick's going to go. The Jets struggle against the tight end. The Niner defensive line depth, how good is that? There's a lot of things to get into tomorrow. We'll talk more about it as we get you one day closer to Niners and Jets on Monday night. All right, thanks to all the good people at The Sports Leader. Hope you enjoyed the live stream. We are with you for Niners Nightly, 6 to 7 o'clock on KMBR. And if the Giants are playing, we'll be on the KMBR YouTube page like we are tonight. J49 says, Larry will grow this channel. There's no question about that. And I hope you guys are enjoying some of the content that we've put forth over the last week or so on the channel or on the KMBR channel, and enjoying this hour talking Niner football. And we'll continue to do it throughout the year. We'll talk Niner football from 6 to 7 on KMBR and the KMBR YouTube channel. And hope you enjoyed it, and see you tomorrow morning on The Sports Leader.